Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are in Rejuvenate Edition 2, and it is our second session. We are so happy to welcome Puan Sarimah Ibrahim, who
Hi.
is no stranger to the Malaysian audience. I'm sure. I'm just going to do a very quick introduction, if you don't mind. Obviously, you know, she is a award-winning TV host, actress, and professional MC. We've known her for the longest time.
Oh God, that's so old.
Well, you've been doing fantastic work with Disney Channel, and of course, one of my favorites at the time when things like Spotify did not exist, it was obviously the Rim Chat show.
Oh my God,
that
yes.
pretty much tells you my age as well.
That was so fun. I loved it. We were like the only chart show that existed in Malaysia at the time.
Exactly, and we look forward to it at home, right? Myself and my brother, it's almost like a karaoke session for us.
Yes.
It was the only time you get to see music videos at the time.
Exactly. There was no YouTube, nothing.
Exactly, fantastic. It was fantastic times. And
you
yeah,
remember a lot of Westlife, and you remember a lot of the old boy bands and the CD giveaways. Then.
Oh yes. I would think I might have won some CDs before. I think it was a 98 degree one or something like that. But
it's so fun,
dear.
Right?
I can't believe we are talking about this live.
It's okay. It's part of life, isn't it? It's nice to reminisce.
Yes. Yeah. Very nice. And yes, and with that short little introduction, obviously I'm gonna leave a more thorough introduction of who you are and whatnot to the audience. And with that, please take it away.
Okay, so do you want me to introduce myself first? I'm Sarimah Ibrahim.
Please.
I'm gosh, you gave my age away. I'd love to say I'm 28 years old, but I'm in my 40s now.
You still look.
No, this is a deception. Okay, this is good lighting and a nice foundation. But yes, I've been a TV host and an entertainer and a performer in Malaysia for a good 23 years. For the last 2 years, I've sort of slowed down because of I had my baby girl quite late at 41, and her name is Sophia, and she's just turned 2 a few days ago. And I know it's been a bit strange. So MCO baby so kesian, right? Tapi tak apa. I mean, we make the best of what we can, kan? I have, as you mentioned, done a lot of shows. I've been a radio announcer for breakfast shows for radio stations, etc. And I've done theater and lots of things in my life. But a lot of things that people don't know about me is my actual passion and my background with psychology. So I actually studied, kira macam nerd sikit, okay? I'm a little bit of a nerd, and I'm quite proud to be. I've always been. I studied psychology. I started at Inti College, then I did it at Help University, and then I did it at Singapore College of Allied Educators. And I finished my advanced diploma, otherwise known as associate's degree in arts in psychology, only about 2 years ago. Can you imagine? So it took me that long to finish because I was so determined. I didn't want to just be like fame and, not finish my education. So I did that. And I've been in therapy for a good 13 years. Psychology is my passion, and constantly growing is my passion, and helping people to grow. That's what I love to do. And because of the pandemic, which is awful, and so many people are suffering, but somehow it's given us a lot of time to rediscover our passions. Whether it's cooking, whether it's, falling back in love with your spouse, or just spending more time with your children. I've rediscovered psychology and the education of psychology, and therefore being the patron of Miasa, it's allowed me to really dive deep into that and try to help people. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and you've mentioned Miasa. So Miasa is the Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association Malaysia, Miasa for short, obviously. Such a colorful background. Yes, you've just mentioned about not many people knowing your psychology background and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now, how did then Miasa came into the picture?
Right. Well, 2 years ago, before I was pregnant, I started to talk about depression and anxiety and mental health problems because, a lot of people know me as like this hyper gila-gila kat Sarimah. And I think for a long time, itu sebenarnya like sejenis cover up. I wouldn't say deliberately, consciously, but I was coping with a lot of anxiety. And, even doing the Rim Chart show, I mean, we had crazy schedules. As performers, we don't have 9 to 5. We have 3 a.m. till 9 p.m., sometimes no time to eat, sleep. So it affected my health. And I do believe it affects a lot of entertainers' health, mentally, physically, emotionally. But we do it because we love the job, and we sort of like cope with whatever's happening in life by performing and making other people happy. So Nyasa invited me for many talks, and I shared a lot of my journey and mental health issues, and then slowly it organically happened. They invited me to be their patron because I was so involved with them, and each of their campaigns, I would be a moderator or be a panelist. So it was a natural progression, and I'm very happy to be their patron. And because of that platform, I'm able to raise more awareness in English and Bahasa juga. Because, I believe we need to reach out and speak both languages. We're Malaysian, so we need to speak Bahasa as well in our quest to reach people. Because, we can't just assume everybody can speak English, can? So, I try, and I can only speak Bahasa. If I could speak Chinese, I wish. I've got quarter Chinese blood, but I never learned how to speak Chinese. It's so sad. Maybe I can learn. Somebody can teach me.
Not too late. Not too late.
谢谢你。我爱你。Basically, that is where and how I got involved with Myasa. So with their ongoing campaigns, even right now, that's what I do. But I'm not just a mental health advocate as their patron. I'm already a mental health advocate before I became their patron, and that is my passion because of my education.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, Myasa offers a range of services and outreach.
Yes.
Perhaps you can just touch on a couple of those, and so that our audience, be it in Malaysia or even in, we have a global audience, just to share with you, that's the beauty of virtual events, right? People are tuning in from all over the world. And I think a lot of what we're going to be discussing here is not just going to be limited to the Malaysian context, but it's more of being human, obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean, the language of being a human being knows no vocab, no semantics, no verbs, whatnot. It is constantly, it is ongoing. You're a human being, and every second of the day you're communicating something. Like right now, I'm communicating with my body, and you can feel my energy. I can feel yours. So even if we weren't speaking, people watching can communicate. I could feel the audience, and you can too, without them, sort of being here. So there's always that. So I get what you mean. So that's great. And regarding Myasa, I mean, there's so many. Myasa is a peer-created and peer-founded and peer-led association. It's an NGO, and there are many services provided. I just want to highlight that there are services for the B40, because right now with the pandemic, a lot of people are struggling. They can't even get food. They can't get basic hygiene products, and Myasa does have assistance with that. So please contact us. If you need any assistance with those basic essentials, and we'll see what we can do. And you can contact us on our Facebook and on our website as well. Some of the things that I would like to highlight about Myasa is it is not just about the clinical part or aspect of healing. It focuses on the healing is in the community. So it's a lot about path shifting towards people to help other people, peer supported, peer led. So we do a lot of mental health assessments, consultations. There is spiritual therapy. There's dance therapy. There's art therapy. Yes, there's many things that we do beyond just, say, for example, people think, oh, kalau I contact Myasa, if I contact Myasa, it's going to be straight to a psychiatrist or straight to a psychologist or medicine only. No, Myasa is not just about that. There are other forms of therapy. So there's no need to be afraid, because I know a lot of people are scared out there, like, I don't want to take meds. So with Myasa, we provide other sort of approaches to healing, which are more humanistic and more holistic. There's psychological services like counseling, of course, CBT, neuropsychological screening. And one of the cool things that I love is it's peer-led. So there's peer circles that happen once a month right now. And prior to MCO, we have an Orchid Clubhouse where you can actually come and sit in and share in a safe space your journey. And, because sharing is power, isn't it? I mean, if you don't talk about what you're carrying, it boils up and it just gathers and it sort of festers inside. So a lot of help comes from sharing your story and other people sharing, and that's how it's peer supported. And another thing that we have that I wanted to share is we do supported employment programs. So there's supported employment and job placement, where we support and place peers in a competitive job environment. And there's a resume and job consultation, work skills training, and then there's a circle of care and a follow-up to make sure that you're taken care of and that the employer knows what you're going through and what your illness is. So we do that. And we have something that's really cool called social synergy. Now, this is like if you're the B40 group and you've got debts or you need seed capital for a business and you need training, well, you can contact Miasa, because we have social synergy and we can assist people with that. So there's many things provided at Miasa that people can just check out. Yeah, loads.
So again, I'm quite surprised because I'm learning so many new things from this conversation here right now. I didn't expect Miasa to be, you're almost a very holistic approach to things, right? So a lot of times when people hear the word mental illness support and whatnot, they only think like what you said, the clinical side of things.
Yeah.
Whereas now Miasa is truly holistic in that state.
Yeah, because you can't just treat someone, diagnose and then treat. The treatment needs to also include support and rehabilitation and spiritual and giving them a sense of society, because we look at the biopsychosocial spiritual model to keep the ecosystem of anyone, yourself, everyone watching healthy, because all these factors affect the human being's mental state and therefore their lives, how they live, what they eat, who surrounds them, what kind of people, how are their employers treating them. So the whole thing comes into place, and whether they believe in a higher power or not, these things can help people through death, moving, divorces, tragedies, pandemics. So we need the whole holistic approach to supporting someone, not just come and talk to me, I give you meds and you go. That's not enough.
Yeah, I think the earlier session that we had, to I guess put it into context, is also very similar to what we're talking about right now. It's about finding out and then what are the next steps. So we were talking about industry-driven TVET education in Malaysia, right? And the stakeholders do a lot of surveys, do a lot of this and that, but it's always just that, and it's just kept there. So there isn't the next step to support. And I think this problem here goes across the board in terms of every industry. And I'm so happy that Miasa is actually really doing that afterthought, right? Not afterthought, but rather the thought of after that.
The post-care, not just the post-care. Exactly. It's not just preventing and treatment. It's also the post-care. Yes.
Correct.
And of course, Miasa is not the only association that does support people with mental health issues and problems in treatment. There are many others that are there for crisis, example, befrienders. And of course, we have AWAS, which is, awareness against suicide. And they're really, amazing places that people can go to get help for specific situations, like if they're in a crisis. But Miasa does have a crisis hotline that's 7 days a week, 12 hours a day as well, run by volunteers. So we're totally dependent on donations and volunteers and basically the community. Because, if you look at other countries that are, you could say more advanced in taking care of people with mental health problems, they don't just treat and you go back with your medication. They have follow-ups. They have these peer circles. And because their stigma is less. So what we're trying at Miasa is to have a zero stigma society. Don't we wish for that? I mean, how amazing would it be to be able to have a conversation with your friend or your colleague and say, hey, I've got really bad panic attacks and they hit me, and be able to say it to your boss and not feel like you're going to be fired, for example. So this is the kind of society we want, where people are getting the support and not being judged for the state of their mental health.
Which is interesting when you mentioned about stigma earlier, which I'll come to that point a little later. But before that, I just want to move. I know you've touched on a little bit of this mental health, wellness, how it is like in Malaysia currently. I think we all see the news. We do understand the numbers today. You know, the recent numbers, and it's not nice.
No. I mean, it's quite a depressing thing. And if you look at a huge number of the people who called in to the government hotline to ask for help, most of the people who called in, about 122,000 calls between January and June, related to mental health issues. And these were helplines that were managed by the Health Ministry and Women, Family and Community Development and JAKIM. And so if you look at this, most of the people that called were having problems with their mental health. And as we can see, the number of suicide cases is also on the rise, on average 3 to 4 per day. And that's just the reported ones. So can you imagine the actual real numbers that we're looking at? And still, we have awareness now, but still there are those who are reluctant to talk about it or judge or still judge. Yeah. I mean, in Miasa alone, we had 43,000 contacts, you could say, calls 8,000, WhatsApp 16,000, social media reach out was 7,008, and then emails were more than 600, just for people in a desperate situation during this pandemic. I mean, so that says a lot, you know. So what it says to me, and my personal opinion, is that the government is doing a great job with, you know, trying to create more awareness. But I think we need a more widespread sort of campaign where it's normalized. I mean, if you go to countries like Australia, etc., they have the funding, they have the budget to do commercials that really hit home, you know, that show the reality. A lot of what we have, like if you go to the cinema, you'll see a lot of ads about drugs. And the depiction is that the addict is at fault and, you know, they just happen to become drug addicts. But the journey towards having a mental health illness doesn't start overnight. It is a gradual thing. You know, a lot of the symptoms that people go through that you and I may call just normal stress could be leading towards a mental health problem, and even something like addiction, in which we're not even aware until we're in it already. It's not a choice. You know, nobody chooses to wake up one morning and say, I'm going to hurt my body, or I'm going to hurt my wife or children. Nobody does that. No one wants to hurt anyone. There are things and factors in their life, biopsychosocial, that are affecting them as an individual, not supporting them enough, that create these coping mechanisms like addiction, etc., and self-harm, or, put them in a situation where they have intrusive thoughts and lead towards other sorts of thoughts that are quite debilitating.
You spoke about normalization very briefly just now, which brings to my next point. Stigma Watch is a signature initiative by Miasa, right? Yeah. I think it's important. Malaysians identify stigmatization and discrimination towards mental health illness and whatnot. And like what we also spoke about earlier, there are not many people who are open to talking about this. Yeah. Perhaps maybe just start at Stigma Watch, I guess, the program by Miasa.
Okay, this is it's a platform, and it's created by Miasa to monitor and respond to reports of stigmatization and discrimination that's faced by mental health peers. And it's also not just that, to celebrate those who are actually helping to combat the stigma and discrimination. So the platform, we collect data from the users and we use it for general knowledge, etc., and for statistics. And it's a call to action, really, and it creates awareness by promoting positive acts. So if you do something that's positive and creates awareness about it, someone can report you on a positive side and say, hey, you know, he did something excellent. He shared really useful information, and hashtag Miasa Stigma Watch. And, you know, they can scan there, you know, you can scan the QR code, And, you know, it just creates more information for us, but it also promotes and encourages active behavior. So also, of course, it goes the other way. So if there's any sort of inaccurate or inappropriate stigmatization on mental health, like depicted in movies, films, or somebody tweets something, or something is said that could, you know, be in some way enhancing the stigma, that can also be highlighted to the Stigma Watch. So that is an initiative, and that is a platform created by MIASA.
So Stigma Watch is still very online driven.
Yes.
Of course, with the very little knowledge that I have in terms of mental support and whatnot, I believe a lot of the programs before the pandemic was very hands-on, very perhaps face-to-face, very physical in that sense. Now we've been in the pandemic for almost 18, 20 months now. How are people getting help besides the, you know, the numbers that you've just shared earlier, 600 emails, 8,000 WhatsApp, and, you know, thousands of calls?
Because it's online, most of the counseling and the reach out and the crisis is happening obviously online, but there's still a peer circle that happens online every month to support peers. And of course, there's volunteers that go out and distribute the food and the necessities to the B40. So we still carry that out. And also MIASA has volunteers who support to, like, for example, bring people who are in need, who are in a crisis situation to hospitals, etc. So even though the SOPs are there, we still try to, you know, assist where we can. And before this happened, before the pandemic, the last campaign that I was involved in, we were raising donations and money, and we actually had to go to a karaoke center and sing some songs. And Naeem Daniel was there with myself and other celebrities who supported, like Sharifah Sophia, etc. And we were doing sort of like a tele campaign, for example, which was done live to help towards fundraising for MIASA, so that we can help more people. So yes, it was definitely more on the ground, and now everything is online. You're right, but it doesn't mean that we can't still support each other. You know, we can see a lot of people creating, a lot of the other NGOs are also establishing more talks, and, you know, I'm involved in many, like, for example, on the 30th, I'm involved in a WINA with MIASA talk that's happening. There's more information on our Facebook and website, where we're going to be discussing life during the pandemic and how it affects women and entrepreneurs, etc. And like this one with you right now. So I mean, it's still possible. I mean, we can still have a conversation, and I'm very active on Clubhouse. I mean, I wish I was more active, but I'm so busy. But I do go in and out, and I am guesting in rooms where I can help spread awareness. But I really believe that as a social figure, as a public figure, my role goes way beyond just being only the patron, because I can speak about mental health personally with my experience with postnatal depression, and friends of mine who have, and people that I've loved or known that have taken their lives. I have lived experiences of several mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, postnatal depression, and you know, suicide loss survivor as well. So I've seen a lot of it, and I think when you've lived through it, and that's why it's peer-led, you can really empathize with other people who are going through stuff. Now, a lot of people look at me and go, but you have everything, Sarimah. You're like, you know, you're famous, you've got money, you've got this, but they don't understand the human aspect behind the scenes, which has, you know, I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. We're all a survivor, you know, of our life's difficulties and traumas. And, you know, through those difficulties and traumas, we know who we are, you know, and because life is not just black or white, there's grays, and the grays often shape who we are. We can't be either good or bad or amazing or useless. We're always somewhere in the middle, actually, and touching a bit on each side. And it's taught me a lot. And I like to share my stories, because I believe that, you know, if someone messages me, and I get DMs every day telling me about domestic abuse, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and I direct them, of course, to the right channel. But as a human being and as a public figure, I say to them, hey, you know what? It's not just you. Because yesterday I had a panic attack as well. My hands were shaking and my heart rate was in my throat. I know that feeling. You know, I don't have to be on the street to understand, because, you know, we all have our own life, lived experiences. And that's another thing, you know, our past often lives in our bodies still. And I'm a great believer in trauma therapy, because I think a lot of people, you know, the past, sejarah hidup, they say, affects the present without us knowing it. Sometimes we are, and we say, this is my personality, but often our personality is shaped by the belief systems that we developed due to life experiences. And the hope is you can undo the belief systems that don't work for you anymore. But you need to be aware first of the belief systems that are running your life. Like if you genuinely believe that you are not a good person or useless or unimportant, you're going to probably seek out situations subconsciously where you're going to get rejected, dumped, fired, unheard, because subconsciously you have that belief. And often the subconscious actually is more powerful, the energy. It's more powerful to make things happen. So a lot of people say, but I always find myself in this type of relationship. And if you look deeply enough to their belief system, they may say, I don't deserve it. I don't deserve this kind of relationship. Why does it keep happening? But I'll say, what do you really believe about yourself? And often they'll break down and they'll talk a lot about how they actually think they don't deserve to be loved. And they're recreating this cycle without even being aware.
Deep, that's deep, but totally appreciate you sharing your experience in that sense. And yeah, who would have thought, right? Most people will say, oh, you know, that's a celebrity. What sort of a white flag are you going to be putting up? But they don't understand mental well-being is also a white flag raiser, I suppose.
Yeah, it's just that, you see, with mental health, as everyone here knows, there's no blood test for it. Right? There's no blood test. There's only risk factor indicators. You know, you can do a mental health screen, but there's no blood test for it. Whereas there's a blood test for other things like diabetes, cancer, and the doctor can say, okay, you need this treatment, this number of radiotherapy, this medication. But when you have a mental health concern, it takes a lot more work. And, you know, it takes the support of the community and your loved ones. And not everyone is as privileged. Not everybody has supporting spouses or siblings or family members or friends even. There's a lot of people who are alone and they've only got themselves. And if they've only got themselves and their belief systems that are working against them, what's going to happen? So that's when, you know, we need to look as a community at each other, reach out to each other. If someone's acting a bit strange at the office or in your life, just ask, are you okay, man? You know, is there something that you want to talk about? You know, or I find the best way is to share something about yourself, like say, hey, you know, this happened to me, you know. And then I often see that people will say, oh, okay, yeah, me too.
Yeah, then they become more open in that sense.
But as a society, that means we have to learn to be vulnerable. And are we willing to be vulnerable? We're in a society, you know, Asian communities, we're not known for being the type of people who put our vulnerability on our sleeves. We're very much about don't lose face. Everything okay? Okay. You know, I'm dying, but I'm okay. You know?
So, totally agree. Yes. To a certain extent, in fact, I also wanted to ask, there are a lot of people there who probably are not, I don't know if I'm using the right word, diagnosed, but they will always say, like what you just mentioned, lah. No, I'm fine. You know, I'm dying also, I'm fine. So they could be really depressed. I mean, loneliness is also perhaps one of those things that fall under the category, right? You were mentioning a lot of people are living alone. You imagine renting a room in KL, right? Because you're from, I don't know, Taiping, you're from Kuala Terengganu or whatever it is. You're closed up in that four walls the whole day. Ooh, that's tough. I mean, there is Clubhouse these days, but yeah, even then.
That is so difficult. And I can't do that. I mean, hats off to everyone who's, you know, I've cried so many times because I open up social media and I see, and I'm like, I don't know how to help enough people. I mean, I wish I had like millions that I could just give away. I'm speaking honestly, you know, and I wish that I had the resources, and all I can do now is try to work from the resources I have to assist where I can, you know, and lend my voice. And if that matters, then alhamdulillah, I mean, that's a good thing, thank God. But you're right. I mean, and the thing is, we look at a lot of others and we are quick to assume somebody looks okay lah, successful ma, CEO, she looks amazing. But deep down inside, you know, a lot of us mask our true feelings because we're so scared, so afraid of not being good enough. You know what I mean? And what we need is to be able as a society to say, hey, you know, I know you're suffering. I'm suffering too, actually. You know, how can we get help? How can we help each other? Is there anything we can do for each other? Can we call this counseling line? Shall we go for a mental health screen? You know, and see what they say? Shall we try and, you know, ask for some employment support? You know, there are steps. There is hope. There is healing. It's just that a lot of people are in isolation. You know, I'll tell you something. Many a times I would step on stage and there would be a stadium, I remember, of 10,000 people. And my knees were shaking, but no one could see it because my dress hid it. But I felt so alone. Like, I'm alone in my own fear thoughts in front of 10,000 people. So you don't have to be alone to feel lonely. Sometimes you can be surrounded by a lot of people, but you think you're alone. I think a lot of people understand what that means, right? You know, when you're just in your own head.
Yeah.
Still, I thought that's just my personality. And after my daughter was born, and I actually got help, but I had a holistic help. I did not only have a psychiatrist. I had peer support, I had friend support, I had counseling, and I also had spiritual help too, to just, you know, ground me back to the purpose of life. After that, I realized, and I look back and I thought, wow, I suffered from really bad anxiety, like debilitating, cannot sleep, sleeping pills. I had eating disorders to feel a sense of control. My relationship suffered. I didn't treat people the way they deserve to be treated because I didn't believe that I deserved to be treated well. And then life was all about a blame game. It's everyone else's fault, that kind of way of thinking. And only when I got help did I realize, you know, it's you, Sarimah. You're not coping with your own issues. You know, a lot of people work and they get awards and they get promoted and they're still not happy. And people say, oh my God, he's so rich, she's so rich. How come she took her life? It's like, yeah, but you don't know. You know, what happened growing up? Or what do they believe about themselves? You can have $1 million in the bank, but think that you're useless still. You know? So stigma and shame is actually the poison in society. It doesn't allow us to reach out and say, you know what, I'm having the shakes. I can't eat, or I'm overeating. I'm not thinking straight. I need help. You know, and a lot of the time the responses that we need to give, such as I'm here for you, or you're not alone, our normal Asian response is, you'll be okay lah.
It'll pass. It
will pass. It's just, you're just stressed lah. And then what do people do? Go on holiday after holiday after holiday after holiday. And you know something, this pandemic has forced us all to be grounded. And that is why I believe so many people are reaching out to MIASA and many of the associations for help and the government's hotline, because there's nowhere to run from yourself.
There's no escape, yeah.
There's no more distraction. And if you or anyone watching is feeling like, why am I feeling this? It must be the pandemic. It must be COVID's fault. Yes, COVID has put us in isolation and has increased the risk factor to feel a certain way. But perhaps those feelings have always been there. And we just never felt it because we were too busy working, moving, traffic jams, holidaying, something or another. And only because now we can't do those things and they've been removed, in some way it's helpful because you get to know yourself, your spouses, your friends, the life choices you've made, the career choices, you can actually see clearly now. And then you can make change. Because if there's always noise, there's no time to think.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, I have a couple of questions here from the audience, and if you don't mind, we're going to jump straight into that.
Yeah.
Jit here says there was a mention about a grant/assistance for businesses and startup. What kind of venture is Miasa looking to support?
Oh, okay. Well, there's an awful lot of paperwork, and you've got to apply, of course, and there's no specific sort of ventures. It is specific to the B40s. But just drop us an email, and we can get back to you, because it depends on the situation and what exactly is required. So please reach out. We can get into in-depth conversation about that for sure.
Okay, we will obviously share contact details of Miasa towards the end. There's a second question here. Hi, Puan. How do you propose we can create awareness on mental health issues in the B40 community? Because many of them still lack info on how they can seek help and how important mental health is.
Okay. Specific to the B40 group, you got to look at the, again, biopsychosocial, spiritual ecosystem. To put it just biologically, if you're in the B40 group and you're struggling, which you are, financially, you don't know when your next paycheck's coming. You don't know if you're going to be safe or not. Is your child going to get food? Are they going to go uni? All these worries. Your mind as a parent or as a spouse or a head of the household, or even if you're alone taking care of yourself, the uncertainty creates a lot of anxiety. And what happens often with people with anxiety, and I can speak about this because I've been there and I've also studied it, you cannot think clearly because the intrusive thoughts that hit you are not reality. But what happens is it only goes, what if, what if, what if, what if, what if? How, what, how, what, how, what? And anxiety is future thoughts. What's going to happen? How will I? How will I? Depression is past thoughts. Why did this happen? Why did I let this? So for people in B40, I think there's a lot of anxiety because they're in survival mode. So it is not, I mean, we can give counseling and you can sit with someone and try to help them get clarity on their plans, financially, etc. But you have to do that first, because if you're not helping somebody gain stability, they can't sit and actually absorb the counseling and heal whatever trauma, etc. Because they're still in a state of panic. Do you know what I mean? So if someone's in a state of panic, you're not going to be able to ask them to sit down and now let's talk about your childhood, because they're going, no, I'm not going to talk about my childhood because I need to pay bills now. So different approaches are required. My point is, depending on each individual situation. Are they in a crisis situation where they're like, I'm totally helpless, I can't do anything anymore? Then we need to approach it possibly in a more crisis intervention way with medical assistance, etc., and then follow up with rehabilitation and support. But are they not in a crisis situation where they're financially okay, but they have these beliefs that are defeating them constantly? That one, we can actually go a little bit more into talk therapy, still support them, with the job placements and still help with the anxiety. So with the B40, I believe, there's different levels within the B40. There's different levels within all the categories of people, actually. And to be honest, I don't like categorizing people in B, M, whatever. I think we're all just sometimes overlapping, depending on every month where we're at, but in general, to make it easier. So I think each individual has an individual need. Do you know what I mean? We can't just say all B40s are like this, all M's are like this, all T's are like this. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings that are affected by many different things. Again, what's the surroundings like? Is there opportunity to work? And then if there is opportunity to work, but the person has anxiety disorder due to past trauma, are they able to hold on to their job? Is it because there's no work, or is it because they can't focus on the work because they're having thoughts about what happened to them in the past? So there's a lot of factors. So the best way is to seek out a holistic, treatment for every individual. However, if you're in a crisis where, that's it, like you think that there's no hope, obviously we need to come in and a different type of intervention is required there. And, Miasa does help the homeless as well, and people who have been displaced, etc. And, I'm not bashing anyone, or I'm not going to, blaming is easy to do. Taking action is harder, but longer lasting. There is not enough funds and support given for NGOs to be able to set up basic necessities like homes, etc. This all takes a lot of money. And the president of Miasa, Puan Anita, has explained this to me in depth. She's been doing this for years, and she set up Miasa. And she explains to me quite often the battles and the struggles that she faces in trying to change policies and trying to get funds and get that financial support to be able to help people. And it's not easy, because I tell you something, our government is in a state of, which I talked about, that survival mode right now. So they're not perhaps able to hear emotional needs coming second, mental needs coming third. Number one is financial to survive. So when a person or a body is in that mind, it's hard for them to hear about the other aspects. Because as human beings, a lion's coming at you, you run. You don't sit there and think like, how could I tame this lion and make him less angry? No, you run. So I think we're all worldwide in a situation where we're in a panic. So when you're in a panic, it's very hard for you to sit down and regulate and try and, solve your own emotional, mental issues. So we got to get them into a calm, safe place first, like proper housing, make sure they have some money, they have the basic food and essentials, then we can address the mental health issues. If not, we're always putting a plaster. And I see a lot of that online, to be honest with you. I see a lot of people just, here's your food, it's a plaster on it. Okay, then, we help you for a day or two or a month, and then you're back on the street again. So where's the long-term plan that needs, obviously, the government's involvement? But right now, the government is focusing on getting everyone vaccinated so we can get out of survival mode. So, how we wish that this had all been done years ago before this pandemic hit us. But we are where we are, and this is where we're moving from now.
I have another question here. It's from Muhammad Izam. It says, the rate of depression on our Malaysian young generation is higher compared to what we faced 10, 20 years ago. What is the cause of it, and how can we combat this issue? And perhaps I'm just going to add on my own thoughts as well. Could it be social media?
I experienced my own social media hell a couple of months ago. I was always like, yay, everyone's happy with me. I'm good with everyone. Everyone's good with me. I never say a wrong thing. And then I took to social media and I shared some information off the cuff. The way you would speak. But because when you speak, there's a context, there's a beginning and end. But with platforms like Twitter, you just get the gist. So I poorly worded a tweet and put it out there, and then people assumed that I meant certain things. And then the amount of negative feedback and bashing, I couldn't sleep for 3 nights. I was crying. I was like, they hate me. Everyone hates me. I'm useless. I need to quit this. So if you ask me if social media can affect people's mental health, I will say a loud resonating yes. Because it's easy for people to make a judgment behind a screen and not meet the person in flesh and not know where they're coming from. And it's too easy to type a certain number of characters and just call somebody a name and then delete your profile and disappear and get a bit of a short-term release, as they call it. Short-term ineffective coping mechanism in psychology it is. You know, I'm angry about my life and I'll just, somebody said something wrong, let's go and bash him or her, and then I'll get out of that. But the long-term effects on the individual very much have been documented. I did a talk, and I've worked closely with Cybersecurities Malaysia, in which they showed me the number of cyberbullying incidences that happen and how it can and does lead to suicide, especially in the youth. So social media definitely does affect the mental health of Malaysians and generally children and adults, all of us. And you know what? We're kind of martyrs for our own punishment because we keep going back for more, because it's like a drug. You get your dopamine hit, you know? Yeah. Oh, someone's liked me. Woo, dopamine hit. Oh, someone praised me. Woo, dopamine hit. Oh, someone doesn't like me. They say something bad. Whoa, my world is crushed. And of course, there's filters, and it's just very easy to hide behind words. And I always say that, you know, words never can fully communicate the emotions, thoughts, and beliefs of a person as much as a face-to-face conversation can. So we've got to be careful with what we say online, and I've learned that. And at the same time, we've got to be careful with our youth and our children, with what they see online, because it is affecting their self-image and it's affecting their self-esteem, and it does lead to depression and anxiety. There are multiple reports on this worldwide. And I do believe that with the rise in social media popularity, especially during the pandemic, because how else are we going to communicate with people again? The more social media interactions, the more we judge each other, the more we judge ourselves, and the more we feel depressed and anxious.
Okay.
So it's hard.
Yeah, totally agree on that. We have time for one last question. It's from Taksun. It says here, hi Puan, thank you very much for the very personal and insightful sharing. If resources is not an issue, what would be your topmost priority program or campaign that you would love to carry out immediately?
A massive nationwide awareness campaign on all media, but standardized it would be TVCs, it would be radio commercials that are standardized, that are raw, that are real, that are in all languages. So we'd have all of our main languages, and followed by, of course, if there was no MCO, a drive, you know, get out to people, get out to the rural areas, get out across the nation, reach out to people, find out, talk to people, go into the kampongs, ask the makcik, pakcik, auntie, semua, all, I have family everywhere, and ask them what is going on in their lives. And I would also, you know, like to highlight what we need to do is decriminalize the suicide, because this is something that, you know, has been discussed in many other talks, and it has not been done yet. It is still a crime to attempt suicide, and that leaves an awful lot of shame and stigma. So that needs to be changed ASAP, because it's pointless. You know, you cannot punish people for having helplessness and mental health issues. You don't punish someone for having cancer or for being very sick and driving down the highway one day and, you know, having your diabetes affect your sight and smashing into a wall as a result of that sickness. Their family is not shamed. Their friends are not shamed. So why must there be stigma and shame surrounding suicide loss survivors and people who have attempted suicide? Because they are not to be shamed. They are suffering, just like any illness. And I would also say we need targeted campaigns for specific issues. Like if you see in the UK or Australia, they have the funds, they have the support. And since the 80s, you know, they focus on eating disorders, and there are many pains going out to the schools where it's just about, say, for example, anorexia or bulimia, and they get to the root problem, they get the data, and they know how to assist and have programs for that, or specific programs for postnatal, specific programs for suicide survivors, suicide attempt survivors, specific programs for anxiety sufferers, panic attacks, addiction. So right now we're still so young, And the resources are sort of split between a very generic mental health, ecosystem, whereas we need like more targeted campaigns, and that requires massive amount of funds and educated people, and preferably peer-led, because we would understand what the people are going through rather than try to lecture them. So that is what I would do. If I had unlimited resources, I would love to kick off a nationwide campaign that, can target with specific campaigns to specific major issues related to mental health problems.
Well, we do hope any of our viewers who are tuning in now or who would be watching it as a video on demand later on do take note. That's Puan's wish list, and hope we can make this happen. Yeah,
I would love to. I mean, it is a part of some of the curriculum, I do believe, mental health, but it is not targeted specific to certain topics, like like girls in school, perhaps understanding more about their bodies and eating disorders and future postnatal, what is it, how to spot the warning signs, sexual abuse groups, how to deal with it, how to not take it as your fault, etc. These are the educational campaigns and outreaches that we really need, and I would love to see happen.
Great. And it's funny you brought up curriculum. It's also very close to our heart as well. I think it's definitely a conversation that we may have post Rejuvenate Edition 2 and see how we can work together and make this a reality.
Lovely.
Having said that now, how do people get in touch with Miasa?
Well, you can just, right now, you can go to their website or you can go to the Instagram, Facebook. All the numbers are there. The crisis hotline is there as well. And, of course, don't forget, we have our circle every month. You can sign up for that. You can email us. If you go into the Miasa website itself, you're going to be able to see all the list of what's available, miasa.org.my. You can see the posters for the social synergy, the workshop, the programs, and also the employment support and the counseling services. It's all there. So please just, go in there and feel free to contact Miasa.
Okay, so that is Miasa as in MIASA.
Yes,
.org.my.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
And our phone number, in case anyone needs to know, right now is 0379321409, and it's info.miasa@gmail.com.
Great, fantastic. Puan, on behalf of the team, on behalf of Rejuvenate and all the audiences that are tuning in, I would like to say a big thank you to you for again spending your afternoon with us to share a lot. I think the session was fantastic. There's a lot that we heard, not just about Miasa, not just about the current situation of how mental well-being is in Malaysia, but we also got to know a lot more about Puan yourself.
Right.
So a lot of personal sharing, and I think a lot of our audiences would resonate with what you have just said, and let's hope they all reach out, be it with Miasa, be it with Befrienders, be it with other NGOs and whatever not. I think the most important thing here today is to reach out.
Yeah, don't be afraid, and everything's private and confidential, and if you wish to be anonymous, of course. So there's no shame. And I would just like to add that, I am, myself and my husband have decided that we're going to dedicate a lot of our time to supporting and developing businesses that are related to mental health and especially also special needs education. We are getting more involved in that because we believe that they need the support and they need a fair chance at being level with the rest of the students in school and mainstream schools, and their parents need mental health support as well. So that's what we do right now, my husband and I. We're really focusing on supporting and developing companies related to mental health and special needs. That is our passion right now. So, feel free to reach out if you have any good ideas and you've got a good pitch, and we think you're bankable, we're here. So, and, through my suffering, I just want to say, in the deepest, darkest times when I was on the ground, on the carpet in my bedroom, crying and thinking, this is the end of me, maybe this is how I'm going to end. 2 years ago when I felt that way. And I was like, I don't need meds. I don't need a doctor. I don't need any support. I can't. It's too embarrassing. The moment I stood up and I looked at myself in the mirror and I looked, so I didn't recognize myself. And I said, Sarimah, you've got nothing to lose. Because if you don't do and ask for help, you've got everything to lose. So that's when I realized nothing to lose, Ma, by asking for help, right?
Yeah, that's a nice way to end this. Nothing to lose, by asking for help. Fantastic what you've got in the pipeline together with your husband, and I do hope you get to collaborate with a lot of people who I'm sure there are a lot of passionate people out there who are really thinking about what you call mental well-being, mental health awareness and things like that. And just to end things off, you're also you mentioned earlier that you also find time to be on Clubhouse. How can people find you? What's your handle?
Sarimah Ibrahim. That's
okay,
me.
simple.
Yeah.
Nice. And you do co-moderate rooms. You
I
get
do.
into. Okay.
I co-moderate on Momentum, and I will be on Urban Madhouse soon. So yeah, so I'm very much open to co-moderating and being involved again, just to add awareness and support where needed. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it actually. I find it really strange that I feel like I'm back on radio again. So I love it.
Great. So for those of you who want to listen to more of what Sarimah has to share, do check her out on Clubhouse. It's Sarimah Ibrahim. That's pretty much it, and you will be seeing her a lot in rooms that talk about mental well-being, mental health awareness, and support and things like that. Yeah. So once again, Puan, thank you so much. We totally enjoyed the conversation, and I'm sure the viewers did as well. And we wish you well. We wish your husband well. We wish Sophia well as well. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And we hope to get you back in future editions of Rejuvenate.
Yes, if you definitely, if there's any conversations to specific topics, I can come in and give my 2 cents, and I might be going into doing further education. I'm looking at either continue my education in counseling or in transformational coaching. I'm not quite sure which one exactly because I feel like I'm doing both already, but I'm trying to make a decision right now that's best for the businesses in the future too.
Fantastic. I wish you all the best, and we all hope that everyone in Malaysia and yourself as well, of course, to stay well and stay safe.
Thank you, and you, just this will pass. I always say, nothing is permanent. It feels like it's permanent. There were days where every minute felt like a day for me, but it does pass. So we can hang in. We just need to support each other.
Yeah. All right, and with that, we will come back again at 4 in the evening later with Con Sotidis as well as Craig Langley. Con is over in Australia while Craig is over in the UK. And we will be talking about 5 strategies to rock your LinkedIn journey.
Wow.
So hopefully the youths are then able to pick up some tips and perhaps get them ahead of the game in terms of job hunting. So we will come back again. Puan, thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.